And I also liked all the preparation that when you put up the format of like with the 3 supporting details, and I liked kind of seeing that structure, and made it feel feasible.
Hare Krishna, my name is Lokapavani Devidasi, and I liked when we talked about powerful beginning, like starting in a powerful way your presentation.
Hare Krishna, I'm Andrea. I very much like the idea that we must be passionate about the topic that we give to the audience.
Hare Krishna, I'm Lekashavanti Devidasi, and I realized that I'm still alive even though I took part in the icebreaker round. And for me also the mind mapping was very inspiring, and I was meditating about it.
Hare Krishna, my name is Sonam. The 3 things what I've learned from the last seminar is to start journaling, which we do not do on regular basis. Second is the art of storytelling and how to create impact on audience. And third is to detach from digital and reattach to your inner self.
My name is Padma and I'm new. Yeah.
My name is Therese Edosenki. I have the joy to be here by chance and be a guest just to listen. I'm here for visiting the center because I'm having a course in April here in
Welcome.
Yoga and Zen.
Nice to have you with us. Welcome.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'm late. My name is Jenny. And is it 3 things we found inspiring?
Just one. It can be one. It's
okay. So I found very inspiring the golden rule of speaking in public, that it's not about me, but it's about them. And that was very, opened many new windows of my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Did everyone get a chance to introduce themselves?
You want?
Hare Krishna, Shyamananda Das. I was here last time, and I very much like the point, it's not about me, also that point. Although I sometimes wonder how to do that practically, if it happens while speaking, if I'm thinking of the audience, everything goes well, but then sometimes if I get, while speaking, self-aware, then it might become a little bit difficult. So how maybe strategies, how to do that in the moment, that would be nice.
Thank you. We'll talk about that in a bit. So now we're going to invite we're going to take we're going to invite Gaura Leela Prabhu to come. He only has a few minutes before he's off with his wonderful play rehearsal that we're all going to get to enjoy on Friday evening. So Gaura Leela, please come and share with us your life experience, maybe not the whole life, we don't have that much time, but your experience with your journey into professional speaking and some tips for all of us.
It is said, all problems are communication problems. This was stated by a psychotherapist from Austria, whose name I forgot. But I think there's a lot of truth in there, which means most of the problems can be solved through proper communications. And I want to share with you 3 points. One is, what is good communications? One is the 3 aspects of what is known in Latin or English, verbal, paraverbal, and non-verbal. And I finish it with a very short presentation, what is good PowerPoint presentation and what is not so good PowerPoint presentation. I want you to remember 3 letters. P, H, C. P is for personal. H is for honest or honesty, and C is to be concise. Personal. Of course, as devotees, we like to quote Shastra and in that sense be authoritative. But I just recently listened to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada where he talked about his taking sannyas. And he was telling that he had a few dreams from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur telling him to take sannyas. And he felt, oh, this is so horrible. I have a wife, I have children, why should I take sannyas? So it's a personal thing. And even I often felt, whether these are professors, whether they are devotees, when they tell something personal, this goes very close. Because we can read the Shastras ourselves, but if someone shares a personal story, it goes deeper into the mind and in the heart. Honesty is not always easy when you have to tell something. No, you cannot do that. Or, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to do this. We try to sometimes find a little bit this slightly, changing the truth in order not to hurt anybody. But we know from Shastra, Srimad Bhagavatam, in Kali Yuga there is one leg left from Dharma, and that's Satya, truth. But now comes a second point. I might be truthful, I might be speaking the truth, be honest, but I can hurt at the same time someone. So the point which I'm trying to stress is, yes, be truthful, but be also sensible, or have empathy, how you present the truth. It's like when you give a bit of medicine to someone. Prabhupada, I think, gives also the example, you put first little honey on the spoon, and so it's easier, and then you present the truth or the bitter truth. There's a little trick, once you hear it, probably you might never forget again. When you talk with someone and the person says, actually, Kosarupa Mataji, you're a very nice Mataji. But what comes after the but is what you really want to say. The other is just a little honey in the beginning, so the truth might be better digestible. Truthfulness, but in an empathic way. And number 3 is conciseness. Be concise. And that's a big art. I think from the 3, this is the most difficult. So many people talk so much. And Uddhava, in Nectar of Devotion, says Krishna speaks very little. And every word he says has deep meaning. And that's an art. Sometimes I get nervous myself, probably other people get nervous themselves when they hear me. When will you finally come to the point? When will you really say what you want? It's always, especially Swiss people, they like to go, around here and around there, come to the point. Personal, honest, and concise. This I will consider the art of communications. My next theme, verbal, paraverbal, non-verbal. Verbal refers to the content, what you say. The interesting thing is, after a presentation, this can be a Srimad Bhagavatam class, this can be a public speech, whatever it is, very little remains of the content. I was surprised, some of you said 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. Many said, it's not about me. It's again a personal thing which sticks to the mind, but the general content is often lost very quickly. I give you a simple example. I've attended many Srimad Bhagavatam classes in my life, and after class, immediately after class, you can ask anybody, how was it? And anyone has a quick response, how it was. Interesting, funny, boring, mind-blowing. What did the person speak about? I think it was a Srimad Bhagavatam class. Very little about the content stays. There's some statistics about it. They say about 10-15% if you have average interest and in something new, within 24 hours remains. However, it doesn't mean it's not important. If you don't prepare your class properly or your presentation properly, people notice that. And then we come to the second point. It's actually how you walk in, how you stand, your mimics, and your outfit. I'm the example of how not to do it. Kosarupa Mataji is the example how to do it. I can tell you instantly when I see her whether she's going to give a presentation. She puts fresh tilak, she maybe even puts a little makeup, she makes sure the hair is okay, the sari is fresh, maybe even took a shower before, because it's a presentation. Whether the presentation lasts 5 minutes or lasts 2 hours, during the whole time you look at the person. In Kali Yuga, we're not so much Shravanam, Kirtanam, we're much more Shravanam, Darshanam. We watch, we see, and we judge instantly how the person is dressed, how the person is walking. I give you a very quick, mundane example. I saw part of the speech when Joe Biden had his first and last TV duel with Donald Trump. The way he walked in, I remembered when I saw it, it's a title of a book. Winners, you recognize at the very beginning, and losers as well. Just the way you could see, he wasn't sure what he's doing, very insecure. So, the non-verbal aspect is your outfit. For men, maybe whether they're freshly shaven, whether you took maybe a shower before, your hair is okay, because you look at that all the time, during the time the person speaks. Then, how you walk, how you stand, how your gestures. I took that with me. There's nothing which I can read from it, but one of the big challenges when we talk about the non-verbal aspect is what to do with my hands when you have to stand. Some have it here, some have it here, some have it here, some have it here. Some play with a pen, some play with the glasses. It's all actually not ideal. Have something in your hand. Don't have an A4 paper 80 gram in your hand. That's too big and it will just flatter and make noise and distract. Have something like that. Look at professional people when they do MC moderation or talk shows. They have generally something like that. And here you have the notes. And with this, you can engage your hands. This is an important point. What's your question you have over there? So you can engage your hand properly. Don't forget, your eyes are always there, and in Kali Yuga, they're more there than the ears. Come to the last point. Verbal, non-verbal, paraverbal. Paraverbal is how you engage your voice, how you sound. En français, you say, c'est le ton qui fait la musique. For instance, you can speak too loud, you can speak too quiet, you cannot pronounce very clearly what you say. You can bring emotions in your words. You can be dry as a new speaker. This is how you speak. Also, whether you speak too slow or too fast, the pronunciation, etc. Now, I talked about, it is said, 10-15% of the content of the verbal aspect remains after 24 hours. Much more important, about 30%, is how you sound. You can hear if the person is inspired, or if the person is just bored about what he says, or if the person seems to be uninspired, not well prepared. So the voice is the second most important way. There's some people, they learn, especially politicians who want to convince people through their speeches, if the voice is too high, even for women, to learn how to make it lower, because a lower voice generally sounds more whatever. I wanted to say sexy, but that's not the right word.
It's more calming, it's more...
Yes. It's calming.
It's easier to listen to.
Yeah, yeah. And the number 3, as I mentioned, is the most important aspect is the way you look. This gives the impression. You have immediately, instantly an opinion about the person, the mind, sankalpa, vikalpa. Wow, this person looks nice. This person takes us, the audience, importance because this person comes fresh and well prepared and looks also that the stage looks nice. So just a fast, quick repetition. Generally, content 10-15%, about 30% how you speak, and the non-verbal aspect, your visual appearance. Also, the stage, prepare it. I generally, when I give a seminar, I go one day before and say, this I want there, this I don't want here, because you look all the time there. And something like that is very helpful, because it keeps the focus, when you not look at the person who speaks, on the theme. I sum up with PowerPoint presentation. One of the big sins, if I might call it like that, is two things. One, you tell the audience what we see on the screen. For instance, I come in and say, Hare Krishna, so nice to see all of you here. Today we speak about speak up and speak out. My question would be, are you blind? Are you analphabets? Everyone can read that. I would have to make a different approach. Today, we're talking about a very important subject matter. How can I reach people? How can I touch people? Point one, and then maybe the next slide comes. Don't read what you see on the screen, and don't describe what everyone sees. If there's a tree, a photo of a tree on that picture, if I would say, here we see a tree, we are not blind, we see, but you can say what kind of tree that is. Tell me what I don't see, what I don't know, where the picture was taken from, who made the pictures, etc. And that's sometimes hard. Give you an example. Let's say you have the 5 golden rules of public speaking. That would be the next slide. So don't say, next we will talk about the 5 golden rules of public speaking. You could say something like, as we know from Ashtanga Yoga, first we start with yama and niyama. Certain things to do and certain things not to do. And we discuss now 5 points. Number 1 is this. Just a different way so you can catch the attention. Otherwise the mind goes away quickly. And the second great sin I often notice is, of course when you have a microphone it's a bit easier, that when people are, when you sit here and you see the screen and you see the audience, it's fine. But I was recently at the ISKCON Communications Conference in Radhadesh. We had one person during the whole presentation. Here was the audience. She was reading what was on the screen. And it's like when I talk with you, I look in your eyes and you look in my eyes. Little trick, when you talk with someone personal and you see the eyes go a little bit left or right, either stop the conversation or change the subject matter. The mind is looking for some diversion because it is not anymore interested in this. But when you're interested, you look in the people and learn to look in the eyes of the people, because I feel not addressed if I always look on the floor or look on the ceiling or I look on the screen. And that's not so easy. Especially when you're a little bit shy, that's the tendency, you know, watching the floor or watching the ceiling, but we can learn that. And the last thing I say in this content is, let's say you have an audience, 200 people, 100 people, whatever, and you feel a bit nervous. Most people have that. You begin to look in someone's eyes. You either know and have a nice relationship, or you feel this person has a very favorable expression, and you start with that person. And gradually, you can increase that. I conclude my speech with a little introduction, how you could start a presentation. Again, it's honesty, and again, it's empathy. And a little bit act, so you get an idea. So I'm now called on stage to make a little public speech. There is big clapping, of course, and chanting. Wow. When I look into your eyes, I feel a great expectation from your side. And to be honest, I'm not sure if I'm able to deliver. But you know what? With your support, with your blessings, it will be a great evening. Let's start. Here's point 1. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gaura-Leela. Thank you, Gaura-Leela. Appreciate you. So I know each and every one of you in this room have something valuable to share with the group. So we have 2 more speakers who are going to do mini presentations like different than Gaur Lila Prabhu, but similar. And then we're going to invite any of you who would like to also share something. And it's just good practice. Consider this your speakers support group. We're all here to support one another in taking the next step or in becoming and becoming better at this craft. I do want to give you a heads up. We are streaming live, and it will be recorded it will remain on the Zürich Tempel YouTube channel. So there was somebody yesterday who wasn't aware of that, and I did not announce it because I don't think I was so aware of it. But just know, if you don't want to be on the camera and you don't want to have your smiling face on YouTube forever, just take that into consideration. Maybe you don't want to come to the front of the room and do a group share. Okay? Is everyone okay with that? Everyone understood? Okay. So does anybody here, is there anyone who would like me not to call on you to do something like a group share? Isn't comfortable in front of the camera? Okay, thank you. So, and I apologize that I didn't make everybody aware of that on Tuesday. So, all right, so I'm going to ask Vrindavan Vinodini to come up and share with us. Vrindavan Vinodini is a professional coach and does a lot of public speaking, and great singer, and she's had to overcome some of her own challenges in her life. It is on. Oh, unless you turned it off. Should we? Okay.
Haribol. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you. Everybody, please give a warm welcome.
When Kosarupa Prabhu asked me to speak, I was thinking of the many, many challenges I have personally faced in public speaking. And I thought I'd share about 3 today and how I continue to try to overcome them. And so similar to Gaura Lila Prabhu, whose presentation was phenomenal. Did anybody else think that? Wasn't it just so energizing? You can remember it with 3 letters, P, H, P. And so...
And C.
Well, for mine.
Oh.
So PHP for mine.
Okay.
So the first P is preparation. And now I realized that yesterday there were a few people, and I could really resonate with those of you who said, I tend to be a bit spontaneous. I like spontaneous speaking. And for many, many years, that has been my own preferred style of speaking. I like to speak extemporaneously. It feels more natural. I feel like I can be more authentic. And this is true. However, there's a caveat, and that's what I found in my own life. I can speak extemporaneously and spontaneously if I am very, very familiar with a subject. If I am not, I must practice, and I need preparation. It is just so key to be prepared. And that preparation can include going over your own kirtan, if it is in leading kirtan, practicing over and over and over again, getting someone to hear you speak. That's something I do constantly. And typically for a class or for any presentation that I give, I'll normally practice anywhere from 10 to 15 times. And so nothing is too small, and I can't reiterate that enough. However big or small your time allotment is, you cannot practice enough. And it shows. It actually is a symbol of respect to your audience if you prepare, because it shows that you care. And there is one hero of mine who is an incredible public speaker. I was sharing earlier. His name is Andy Stanley. He is a Christian pastor who speaks to close to, it's probably now 50,000 people each Sunday. And his discipline in speaking is that he prepares for a class 6 months in advance, and then 6 weeks before he gives his class, he will go over it, go over it, go over it, and then he gives the same class 3 times in one day. And so when he gives his first class, he'll then get into his car, play the class, and then make any corrections or adjustments he feels is necessary, and then will rejig that class for the second time before he speaks again. And so this is the level of commitment. This is how much preparation that can be the gold standard, we could say. But for ourselves, just knowing what we are talking about and feeling comfortable with that practice, that was one of the pieces you were speaking about yesterday, Kosha Prabhu, that I appreciated, that you should always know more than you will actually present. And so preparation, the first one. The second is heart. Now, this is an interesting one, and one I really learned from one of my own favorite speakers, who is my husband, and that is to be with one's heart when you are speaking. And so what does that mean? It sounds very esoteric, doesn't it? What does it mean to be with one's heart? It means that I am fully present to who or what is in front of me. I am not in my head. I am not worried about, what's someone going to be thinking? Am I looking okay? I shouldn't have said that. Why did I say that? I am fully present. And the way in which I've found a way to really experience this for myself is to be in my body. And so that means sometimes doing some pranayama before, literally feeling, and I invite you to do this right now. If you are sitting cross-legged, you can just take a moment to maybe you can get up if you'd like, or just put your feet on the ground. Just try it for a second. Feel your feet solidly on the ground. Just close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Exhale. We'll do that one more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. And feel the ground beneath your feet. Thank you. You can sit down again. And we'll take two people, perhaps. How was that experience like for you? What did it feel like to feel your ground beneath your feet? Please. Peaceful. Almost immediately peaceful. Okay, beautiful. So grounded, right? That sense of grounding, along with it comes a sense of peace. Anybody else? Once, twice, 3 times? Okay.
I liked being aware of my breath, to just stop and breathe and feel it from the head to the toes.
It's so powerful, isn't it? When we actually occupy our own body, there's a sense of empowerment that comes with it. And that's what it means to be with one's heart, to actually feel empowered. And when we're not feeling that way, we tend to get mental, right? And so our thoughts are spinning. They're probably 10 feet ahead of us, and we're trying desperately to catch up. And that's what it can feel like sometimes when we're giving a talk, when we're leading kirtan, that we feel like we're just going off on tangents, or I'm not quite sure what I'm doing right now. But to come back to presence, to come back to the breath, to be with my heart is so important. It's also when we have the opportunity to play around and intentionally modulate our voice, spontaneously put in stories. We give the space for spontaneity when we're with our heart. We allow for higher empowerment to come through. And then finally, the third P is prayer. And I cannot emphasize this enough, because as we've been hearing with our esteemed speakers this week, we are so minuscule. Yet, the one thing that I found so powerful, and I believe it was Keshava Swami who said it, or perhaps Sachinandana Swami, that we are parts and parcels, and so even in our smallness, we have a part to play. Right? And that is where prayer comes in. When I am praying to actually play my part, with as much intention and devotion as I possibly can, that's when inspiration and miracles can actually happen. And so with that prayer, we can also pray, and this is my prayer every time I try to lead kirtan or to speak, no matter what I do. Please let my false ego, please take away my false ego, Krishna. Please, please allow me to serve you from the place of knowing I am actually a soul, a part and parcel of you. And please allow me from that place to actually act as a channel, an instrument by which your grace can flow through. And so those are the three pieces that I'd like to offer to you today. So that is preparation, heart, and prayer. Thank you very much.
Haribol. Thank you very much. And Keshava Priya Prabhu? Keshava Priya Prabhu is a wonderful, accomplished businessman and devotee of the Lord, and I've asked him to kindly share with us some of his life experience.
Hare Krishna, everybody. So my presentation is a little different. I don't come from the world of public speaking, but as a former CEO of my company, I serve primarily in a lot of boards and panels, and I thought I'll share one of my personal stories that I learned two valuable lessons in my life. One was a good speaker has to be a good listener, and the other, which I still take with me, and as devotees this tends to happen to us a lot, is having not to have preconceived notions of people before and not trying to judging a situation. So a few years ago, I had the opportunity to join a global organization called the YPO. It's called the Young Presidents Organization. It's an organization for global CEOs to connect and network. Me personally, I'm an introvert, and networking is a very scary thing for me. And I hesitatingly joined this organization, behest of a friend of mine that strongly suggested as a company we were fundraising and said this would be a great opportunity to connect with folks in our line of business. So joining this organization, YPO is part of the YPO experience was something called a forum. And a forum basically was something that you got together with a group of 8 individuals that served in the business community or the political community. And once a month, you got together and you turned your phones off and you sat in a room for 6 to 8 hours. And you kind of broke down your meeting between personal, business, what's happening in my family. And you really get the nitty-gritties of what's really happening in each other's lives. Now, this was something that made me extremely uncomfortable. Being a private person, being an introvert, said I don't really feel comfortable talking about what I do from a business standpoint, what to speak of on a personal level with complete strangers that could be potential competitors. So I avoided it for at least a year, and then friends of mine that were in this organization strongly suggested, hey, if you want to stay part of the YPO, you have to be part of this forum experience. So with the greatest hesitation, I landed up joining a forum that was in my city and met with 6 to 8 individuals. And I said, okay, the first session, I figured, I'm just going to observe, get a feel for how things are, and kind of see if this is something I want to do or make an excuse and kind of bail out, So, I sit for the session, and it's a really interesting group of folks, strong business leaders, some folks from the political community, really accomplished individuals, that were speaking very candidly, about their business, their, interests, and getting into the nitty-gritties of what's going on in their personal life, And me sitting there in this meeting and attending it, my first impression was these damn karmis, they were doing this and they were doing that. And I started thinking, I said, I don't want to be part of this, these businesses are not what we're supposed to do. And I caught myself really judging these individuals I had not even known, and just assumed all these things. But one wonderful thing happened is that I got the opportunity to just listen. And as I listened, and I heard all these accomplished individuals express their own vulnerabilities in the most authentic manner, with no hurdles, or just completely comfortable being who they were. It really opened my eyes, and I felt I learned so much from them, because I realized I was the one that was being reserved. I was the one that had this, preconceived misconceptions. And the reason I share this with you is because I landed up staying with this group for a few years, and a lot of them turned out to be really good friends of mine, and still good friends of mine today. And one of the things that happened really amazingly was, as I started opening up, I had the opportunity to speak about Krishna. I had the opportunity to speak about the Bhagavad Gita. And I never thought this was a group or an audience that I could do that with. I had already judged in my mind initially, no, this group is not going to be my target audience, and I was wrong, and and it really humbled me, and it really taught me, one, to be a good listener, to really understand everybody else's perspective, and to go in any situation, to not have these preconceived notions of people as a whole. And interesting enough, a lot of these people, have attended Janmashtami festivals with us, and have been a part of our community in some form or fashion. So that was something I felt I wanted to share. I'm not the most confident public speaker, and I've always shied away from it. But I felt as devotees, and as we go out in the business community, and we have the opportunity to interact with so many people outside our comfort zone, it helps to remind ourselves that, that the same Paramatma that resides in our heart is also in everybody else's heart. And Krishna makes the arrangements, and he makes the arrangements for us to, find a way to tell people about how wonderful our Krishna is. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Keshava Priya Prabhu. That's gold to remember. To be a good speaker, we have to first be good listeners. And that's always there in our connecting with people. And as speakers, whether it's questions at the end, it's feedback, it's knowing our audience, so even talking to people ahead of time to find out what their needs and expectations are. Before we open up for more group sharing, how many of you did go ahead and do a mind map between Tuesday and now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. I'm going to ask if you're comfortable to come up to the front, since this is we're all breaking out of we've all broken down our boxes and we're comfortable speaking now, right? If you would like to come up and actually share your mind map, what you learned from it, or anything specific that happened for you doing the mind map. Would you be comfortable to come up and speak in front of everyone? Yes. Well, there's only 4 of you who did it, so you're each going to have a chance to talk.
I didn't prepare so long time, so it's very, I think somebody else should start.
All right, well, okay, you want to start then? Yes. Okay. And there's an X here that's ideal for the camera. And do hold the mic pretty close, because...
Hare Krishna. I was considering what to make a mind map about, because you mentioned it could be whatever subject or topic. So I'd like to just briefly say that I'm working with children at the age of 5 to 10. I'm working at a school, and the topic I chose is TTRPG. So I'm curious if any of you know what TTRPG stands for. No, tabletop role-playing games. So it's a joint storytelling activity, you could say. So my little map here, which obviously is not only a mind map, I have to have a little paper to help me. I thought I'd go through, first of all, what is it? So, yeah, and then what do you need, and how do you do it, and why would you do this activity? So it's as I said, it's cooperative storytelling. So there's you need different things for it to happen. You need pen and paper to write down. You need a table and chairs so you can sit down. You need some dice because there's an element of randomness that is part of it, and you let the dice decide. And you also need participants for it to work. And how you do it is that everybody has different roles. So there's a game master which leads what is going to happen, and then there's players who are participants. And the game master have prepared something for the players to go through, a little story or a long story, and the players make choices throughout this. So it can be different situations, different moods. It could be typically what I've been using it for with these children is fantasy. So it could also be science fiction, it could be horror. There are many different role-playing systems. And you make a character that fits to the story. So for instance, if it's an adventure, you're going to bring these players through. Everybody makes a character. It could be a knight in shining armor, it could be a wizard, it could be a sneaky thief, and then they go off on a story. And the game master then sets the scene, and then the players decide what to do. So it might be that you're walking through a forest, following the road. It's a dark forest. You have a city you are walking towards, and you come to a place in the road where it, breaks up, it divides. And the sign which shows which direction you should go is lying on the ground, so you don't know where to go. So what do you do? That could be the beginning. And then it's up to the players to decide what are they going to do. And in certain circumstances, you'll need dice to figure out the result of
and
what is
how
happening.
did doing the mind map help you organize your content and plan it?
Well, when I look at the audience, it seems like I haven't fully gotten your attention. Somehow that seems like I'm not really getting there. But it's, for me, I think I could speak about it for a very long time. So just try to break it down into, what is it? What do you need? How do you do it? And why? So I'll just go on to the why. For me, it's, first of all, it's fun to either be a player or to be a game master. And I've been using it because you can cover so many different things. When I'm working with these children, it's like it stimulates their creativity and their imagination, and there's a lot of cooperation, which is part of it, because you have to figure out as a group, what are we going to do? Or you can choose a leader and say, okay, the leader decides, different possibilities. Problem solving is also a huge part of it. And for children, it's also, you have to learn to wait your turn. So the why could be many things. So this was just like a list of, it could be only for fun, or you could have more specific purpose with it. So thank you for listening.
Thank you
Hare
for
Krishna.
sharing. Thank you. Thank you for doing the assignment, and thank you for sharing with us. Do we have another mind mapper who wants to share? Not necessarily your mind map, but what you got out of the exercise of creating a mind map. Runter? Radhamadava Dasi? And yeah, this area right here is where you're in the camera.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. I mean, I can also talk about the mind map if you're interested. It's about my favorite service, which is cakes and cakes for festivals. What I really learned, or what the mind map helped me to structure my thoughts and my inspiration, like in actually quite a short amount of time. No, it was maybe 15 minutes I was sitting here and I have half a page of ideas I would like to share. Shall I talk about the mind map as well, or is it too much?
Might be too much because we have a lot to cover, but if you just take a few points that are highlights for you.
Okay. Yeah, for me, cake is really my meditation, or part of my yearly meditation. I love to think about the festival, and I love to think of which festival it is, and what flavors would fit, and what texture will fit, and about the decoration, what will fit, what for the festival itself, for the season. Of course, there should not be animals or Krishna himself on the cake eatable. So it's always to find a way of showing something, but the right thing. You know, like my Gurudev said, please don't put Krishna on it in a breakable form. He's perfect, so please be sure that never ever something like an arm breaks off, or so this kind of instruction I got, and yeah, that's what I follow and try to. Yeah, it's nice, a nice meditation which grows over the weeks of meditating about.
Thank you very much. Jenny, did you want to share with your mind map?
Hare Krishna. Yes, I also found mind mapping very, very helpful. I haven't worked with that for a long time. And I figured that actually quite many ideas came to my mind in a short period of time. And I was sort of meditating on different topics we can discuss on our kirtan program we have in our small town, like twice a month. And I came up with the topic Bhakti in everyday life because I feel it's a very relevant topic for newcomers who might be interested in going deeper into the practice. And I just kind of went through this 3 o'clock, starting at 3 o'clock method, and I found 5 main topics, which are first sadhana at home, and a subtopic would be creating a sacred space, so having an altar at home, and maybe putting up some pictures of Krishna or even deities, and just this aspect of rising early and chanting, maybe also in association. And the next point would be home worship, so the point of deity worship, or worshipping Tulasi Devi at home, and just creating a sacred atmosphere basically at home by playing kirtan in the background, or Srila Prabhupada's japa tape. And the next point would be Sankirtan, to invite neighbors and friends for prasadam and kirtan at home, and to distribute books in the neighborhood, which can be a very nice thing to do. And one of the points was also cooking prasadam, which I find very important in everyday life. Just to enthuse everyone to get more into the topic of really meditating on what would be a nice offering to make for Krishna, and sharing that, because I think it's also a very accessible way of bringing Krishna more into everyday life. And the last point is kirtan, having some instruments at home, and also very accessible, maybe some cartels, or sometimes maybe also guitar for someone who already plays the guitar. And just invite friends and neighbors to do kirtan. And I just found it very helpful to do that in the mind mapping way, because I feel like usually I just write it down on a paper, like with some dot points, and then I have to look at it again and again. But like this, it's actually much more accessible, and I can remember it much better, what I wrote. So thank you.
Thank you very, very much for sharing that with us. Give her a round of applause, please. We have a special guest speaker who has recently come to join us. His Holiness Keshava Maharaj is here. And I had asked him if he would also share a little of his professional speaking journey. Of course, I'm sure it's is connected with your own devotional service. I don't know that you were a speaker beforehand. No. And if you would like to come and share with us any of your journey that you find appropriate, to challenges and what's made it easier for you, just some tips for the rest of us. And you're welcome to either sit here or stand, whatever's more comfortable for you. Okay. We've got a X over here for the cameraman. Just somewhere in that vicinity.
Put the tripod up. Okay.
Yeah, he's got to adjust.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Hare
you for
Krishna,
joining
everyone. My pranams. And thank you to Kosarupa Mataji for the opportunity.
Please, a round of applause.
Public speaking. Okay, I'll just share some random things with you that kind of immediately come to my mind. The first thing is that when I grew up, I was an introvert. I think I still am an introvert. The last thing I wanted to do in my life, and I'm not just saying this because it's a public speaking conference, but the last thing I wanted to do in my life was public speaking. And when I joined the temple, the devotees kind of convinced me that there was such a need to share knowledge with others, to preach Krishna consciousness, so I started doing it. And now I do it every day. Pretty much not a day goes by where I'm not addressing an audience, often 2-3 times a day. And what has helped me on the journey? The first thing that gave me confidence to do public speaking in Krishna consciousness is that I developed a faith in what I was delivering. When I realized the power of the wisdom I was delivering, Shastra, when I realized the power of Srila Prabhupada's words, the power of this message, then it really helped me to take the emphasis off myself. It was almost like I'm delivering something which is just so amazing that it really doesn't matter about whatever disqualification or limitation I have. And so the first thing I would say in public speaking is that you should really be convinced about what you're speaking about. If you're enthused, if you're confident, if you've experienced what you're saying to others, then not only do you become really comfortable, but it just touches people in a different way. So that's the kind of like the first thing I would say. These are just very random thoughts, so I'm usually quite structured, but this is very... So another thing I would say is just do it as much as you can. And that's a really, really simple one. But the more you do it, the more you'll become in tune
with what works for you, what doesn't work. You'll become more okay with being surrounded by people and just being in this atmosphere, and it just becomes much more familiar to you, so just do it more. Another thing that I think is really, really important in public speaking is before I go to give any address or think about speaking to an audience, I always deeply think, what are their needs, what are their interests, and what are their concerns? If you know this deeply, if you know your audience very, very clearly, then what you can do is you can present something that will naturally draw in their attention, because you're speaking something relevant that is going to really help them in their life. So that's another really, really important thing, that know the needs, interests, and concerns of the people you're addressing. For me, the fourth thing I would say is that speaking is not actually my most authentic way of communicating. If it was my choice, I wouldn't do it. But there's a need, so I do it. But actually, my most authentic way of communicating is writing. I feel like I can express myself much more clearly, much more powerfully when I write. But writing, I found, was also connected to speaking, because when you write, you basically get an idea very, very clear. Because when you write, you can't kind of waffle, they say. Do you understand what I mean by waffle? Like, you can't. It has to be very clear. And writing helps me to get things clear in my mind. And when things are clear in my mind, then when I speak them out, then they come out very, very clear. So another really, really important thing in public speaking is to have your ideas crystal clear in your mind. If it's not clear up here, it's definitely not going to be clear when it comes out here. So therefore, really, really try to crystallize and clarify what your thoughts are. I don't know, shall I stop there?
Absolutely not. Actually, I'm sure we're going to have questions, but I would like to ask a question.
Yes.
When you prepare your stories, because you're very good at bringing a story in, and it may be many-faceted, and it may be throughout the whole lecture that you're, or class, you're tying different points back to your initial story. So anything like your thought process around crafting those stories to weave the philosophy and leave us with the conclusion?
Yeah. You may have noticed that nowadays people's attention span has been annihilated. People just can't concentrate. And so basically, every 2-3 minutes usually in a public address, you really have to do something to engage the audience. So stories are brilliant, analogies are great, statistics help, personal experiences are really interesting for people, and of course humor, if you can do, is also very, very powerful. So I realized this very early on, that these things are very much needed. So what I started doing about 20 years ago is I started a document, and it was called Stories and Anecdotes. And what I do is, because we travel through the ISKCON world and we have talks with devotees, at the end of every day, if there was a story or an anecdote or something interesting, I'd note it in that document. And what I do is, it would just be like a paragraph of maybe a story that someone said or an experience they had. But what I do is I just put a header above it with a key word like, I don't know, like anger, or, I don't know, like confidence. And so I started doing that. Every time I picked up a good story or some good anecdote or something I thought I could share, I just kept documenting it. So that document's it's over 1,000 pages long now.
Wow.
But it's very good, because what I can do now is I just press Control F, and to find something, and I could write in something like anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'll have 50 stories on anger.
Wow.
And then what I do is, if I have to give a class, then I just pull out some things that are in my mind, and then I just, so you can prepare like that. So yeah, you really need a lot of content like that nowadays, interesting anecdotal things that will really bring people in. Because otherwise, if you just keep speaking, gradually just people's energy just goes, it's just so constantly to engage people. So yeah, that's one thing that I do. And when you're speaking regularly, what will happen is you'll get train of thoughts. So what will happen is that when you speak regularly, then what will happen is when someone asks a question or a certain point comes up, what will happen is other things you've spoken about will naturally come in your memory. So now sometimes someone may ask me a question, and then I've got 3 stories and 2 things and people are like, wow, how'd you do that? But it's just because you've spoken it so many times, and you just create a train in your memory, so it always one thing triggers another, which triggers another, and you have a lot to share with people. So, yeah.
We were also talking the other day, thank you for that, about cultural context. Because here in Europe, at this retreat, we have people from many different countries, different languages, different life experience, and humor doesn't always translate. Even stories and anecdotes don't always translate. So how do you, because now you are traveling internationally, what do you do to make sure something's not off or not well received?
Sometimes you just have to make mistakes and learn. But yeah, you see, this is another major kind of thing I would share with all of you, that what really helps me in public speaking is just speaking to the public outside of a class. So what I tell people is, if you want to do public speaking, then make sure you speak to the public. So what I'll do on a retreat is, a lot of my time goes in spending time with individuals to understand what are they going through, what are they about, what's their personality like, what are their challenges, and different places have different things. And then you also get a sense of what is their culture, how do they, how do they think, what is their what is valuable to them, what is sensitive for them, what is hard for them. And then when you get to know the people better, when you've got, in English we say, the fingers on the pulse, you understand, then you can be a lot more sensitive and relevant as well. So if you want to do public speaking, make sure you speak to the public. And so sit down and hear your audience, try to understand them as humans. And then you're more likely to be sensitive and relevant. Yeah.
In public speaking, often it's recommended you speak standing up, which we don't do in our temples. And do you have a preference? Do you prefer, because the reason being that when you're standing, your energy is able to flow much more. When you sit, the energy gets stagnant. So you have to make more of an effort to get your audience high, like we were talking about on Tuesday. So do you have a preference?
Yeah, I like to sit down.
Right.
But you're totally right, actually. When you're standing up, I'm just also very self-conscious, and I know I'm so tall, and I'm it's already I'm so I generally like to sit down, but I don't need to sit down today.
No, we would like to offer you a chair. Okay. We would like to offer you a chair so that we can pass the other mic around so that the devotees can. So I'm not the only interviewer, so the other devotees can ask questions, because they already heard me talk for a whole 2 hours the other day. So do any of you have any questions for Maharaj? Oh, no, Maharaj, we have another one. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. And I think you have to turn it on, yeah.
Hare Krishna. I'm wondering how to overcome nervosity when speaking in front of seniors, or at work when I'm talking in front of boss. yeah, I don't know if you struggle with it still until today, or if that's gone.
It was, that's difficult, especially now. I kind of travel, and because I'm in the role of a sannyasi, but I'm also like young. But because I'm in the role of a sannyasi, they often tell me to give the class, and oftentimes I'm faced with all of my seniors, and it's intimidating. Again, what helps me is I just remind myself that what I'm sharing is powerful. I just try to take the attention away from myself. I really try to deliver the Bhagavatam, deliver Srila Prabhupada's words. And I find that when I'm just delivering the Bhagavatam and just giving those words, hopefully in a pure and chaste way, then that gives me the confidence, because I know that it's not something coming from me. It's something which I'm just the messenger of. Another thing I would say is that this is really important in public speaking, that when you're speaking and everyone looks blank and everyone looks really serious, don't worry. Many people they just look like that. It's a little bit like that. Like sometimes I give a class and I just think that everyone was so serious, so like, did I just bore them to death for the last like 1 hour? But people are okay. They're soaking it in. So sometimes you see seniors and they may be like but it's okay. Don't get too sensitive about it. It's always nice before you begin to ask for the blessings of your seniors as well, and to acknowledge them and pray for their good wishes, and then ultimately, yes, I don't know if that helps. But does that work? Oh, definitely.
At work, to ask for blessings.
Oh, at work. Oh, like that, when you're in a corporate context. Well, you may not ask for blessings, but it's nice to acknowledge them and what they've achieved and what you've been inspired about by, from seeing them, and to draw some of their good, positive energy towards you really helps. Yeah, to break that. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. You were speaking, in other words, of really trying to be an instrument. And I was wondering if you could share more on whether it's been your journey, or perhaps you've just appeared this way in this world, of really being that instrument and not allowing the ego or insecurities to get in the way when you speak.
Yeah. Someone was mentioning about nervousness, and someone once said to me something about public speaking which really helped. They said, when you come in front, when you're about to walk up to an audience and address them, a certain energy goes through your body. And they said, if you're meditating on what could go wrong, then when you turn up in front of the mic, in front of your audience, then that energy is translated into nervousness. They said, when you walk up to the stage and that energy is going through you, if you're meditating on what could go right, what amazing contribution you could make, how you could be an instrument of inspiration, then when you turn up in front of the audience, that energy comes out as excitement. Excitement and nervousness are basically the same energy, but just interpreted differently according to what you're meditating on. So before I come in front of an audience or address, my meditation is, what could go right? What amazing service could I do here to help people? How could I be an instrument to glorify Srila Prabhupada and his teachings? What can I do to represent this movement so that people will be drawn towards it and appreciate it. And when you're in that mood of service, like, how can I use this opportunity I've been given for service? Then I feel it just takes all of that ego, all of that self-absorption out of the equation, because it's not about you now, it's about them. It's all about what I can do to serve others. So that kind of helps me. Is that okay? If you'd like to add anything to this, you can also.
No, it's wonderful. You're reiterating a lot of the points we were discussing on Tuesday, and it's good because that's, as we just heard from Gora Lila, our retention, if we're lucky, is 10 to 15%. So to hear these things over and over again is really important. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the nice explanations. I wanted to ask if you meet some people who are not really interested in Krishna consciousness, but somehow still there is maybe some interest because they just start to talk to you, or but their interest is a little bit maybe not how to say. Later maybe they will be interested, but at the moment when they talk to you, they're not in Krishna consciousness yet. And how do you manage with this? What do you say to them?
Thank you. Yeah. There's an English saying, if you want to take someone somewhere, first you have to meet them where they are. So if you want to take someone on a journey somewhere, then first you have to meet them where they are. So whether it's public speaking or whether one-to-one, just try and make a connection with the person. Try and find a common point. Try and help them understand, me and you, we're the same. We are similar. We're not different. We're the same. And when there's a sense of we're the same, then it's like, oh, we can also walk together on a journey then also. This is what we also do in public speaking. What you have to try to do is build a connection with your audience. Help them to as a public speaker, we don't try to talk at people. We try to talk with people. So it's not I'm up here and you guys are down there and now I'm going to teach you. Sometimes there's a need for that, but a lot of the time it's just we are in this journey together and let's do that. So try to find a common point, a common interest, and then gradually try to find areas where you can introduce more of Krishna consciousness that you think they're ready for. And for different people it will be different things. So, like that. And then you start bringing more Krishna into the equation. Is that okay?
I'm also curious, Maharaj, if when you started out, because you were a young man when you started out doing all of this, giving classes at colleges, universities, was there some struggles and challenges that you could share that would be relatable to those who are just getting started in this arena?
Yeah. I wasn't a naturally charismatic person, so holding the attention of audiences was difficult for me. And yeah, when I used to speak sometimes and you come out of a class and you just think, oh no, I just didn't connect at all, you know. And there were times when you just thought, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is so difficult. Like, I don't want to. So I think you will have times like that. Be ready when you do public speaking and you give classes. Just be ready that there will be occasions when you just come out and you just think, oh no, that was like terrible. You know. And it's usually we make it worse in our mind than it actually is. But I think be ready for that. That was definitely. And over the years, I learned to be myself, but also try to be more engaging. I'm still not the most charismatic of, high energy. But I find a way that's authentic to me. Other struggles, what could the other struggles be?
Well, one thing I was thinking of is, once upon a time, when we led kirtan or we gave class, there were 10 devotees or 20 devotees, maybe even 100 devotees. But now it's on the webcam, it's on the internet, there's mobile phones. It's like, it's no longer, you think you're giving it to this audience, but now it's somewhere else that it may or may not have the same relevance. And the online critics are very toxic. It's really, so it's brought in a whole nother level of pressure and, quite honestly, shutting down a lot of people who were comfortable giving classes in a personal way, and now they're like, I don't want to be in the public social media world. That's not where I want to teach. So how have you overcome that, or what advice would you give?
Yeah, it is like you have to be very, very careful what you say now. Because people can take it out of context, people can re-quote it and misunderstand you. I guess the way we reconcile it is we also realize that it's very beautiful, because from sitting in one place we can reach so many people, we can reach so many hearts. I, for many years, just like religiously avoided doing any kind of social media, because I felt like if I went into that world, then I wouldn't do other internal work that I wanted to do. It would absorb me. So I didn't do anything for years. And then after I took sannyas, then a group of devotees came forward and they said, why don't we do this? We can reach so many people. So over the last couple of years, we've been doing it more. And it's actually incredible, because you reach so many people. People who would not come to a Hare Krishna temple, people who would have nothing, to do with any kind of religious community. It's incredible the people we can connect with. And so, it is difficult, and everyone will experience toxic comments. It's humbling. And but remember, for every toxic comment, there are also like many, many people who have been benefited, and we just learn to take the bit of the rough with the smooth.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Hello. Hare Krishna Maharaj. So how we can deal with the pressure that we remain creative every time we do public speaking? Like maybe last time we did public speaking and we got a lot of applauses from audience. Next time when we are going to give a public speak to the same audience, they came with the same expectation. So how to deal with that?
We have an expectation of how people should receive it and whether it goes well. Well, I was reading something recently interesting about Roger Federer, the tennis player. So he played 1,500 matches in his life. And you know how many of those matches he won? What percentage? He won over 80% of the matches. The interesting thing is, do you know what percentage of points he won if you added up all the points? He won only less than 50% of the points. So it's an interesting statistic, because it means that half the time he was losing the points, but over 80% of the time he won the matches. And what his reflection on that was a point is a point. If it's a good point, don't get too elated. Just move on to the next point. And if it's a bad point and you lost it, don't worry. The next point is coming. And what happens with us is we get too drawn into each thing. Like you gave a class, everyone gave you a lot of claps. All right, don't take it too seriously, accept it, move on to the next one. And you came and gave a class and it was a little low on energy and you don't feel like people connected. It's okay. You did your best. Move on. Because it's just a point. And if you just play each point with your heart, give each class with your heart, then overall you'll do a beautiful service for Krishna. So sometimes you may think you gave a bad class because there wasn't such a good external reception. But you may have touched people in that audience, a few people deeply that you're not aware of. Sometimes you may have think you gave a great class, you got lots of claps, but no one was really, you don't know what effect your speaking has. That's all down to Krishna. So even if you wanted to judge the effect of a class, it would be very difficult. So just do your best, play each point, and then move on.
Wonderful.
So Maharaj, you talked about the public, and the way you go in the world and different public and touch the public. When you have Vaishnava public, it's a bit easier because they understand what you talk about. But when you arrive to a public or somebody new, but you said you have to connect with them and get the sense of who they are, how they feel, their challenge. But sometimes you don't really have the time. Sometimes it's like this lady said in front, on the street or maybe on a line in a shop, and you still want to connect with them and maybe not talk about Krishna right away. But how do you get when you have short time and you can be intuitive and feel if you're that sensitive, but if you're not, so how you do this little gentle swim to at least touch something in them, hopefully their heart, but that you must be brilliant to do it in a few seconds. So how you do that?
I think you have to stay in contact with people. Like, nowadays I'm at airports a lot, so I go into bookshops. What are people reading? What are they interested in? Like what are they struggling with? It gives you a sense of what, I think in German they say Zeitgeist, right? Like what the spirit of the time is. We have to be in tune. So I do that. For years I did book distribution. So book distribution is incredible. You speak to like 500 people every day who know nothing about Krishna. You can learn so much about people. And nowadays I'm not able to do so much book distribution, but just on my travels I speak to people all the time. It's funny, I was on a plane the other day, so I came into the plane and it's always, you never know who you're going to sit next to, So I sat down next to this lady. She's an older lady, maybe 60 years old, 70 years old, something like that. And so she looked at me, and without saying like hello or anything, she said, "I've watched your videos." So I was like, okay. She said, "I'm a lawyer." I said, okay, I was getting a little like... And then she said, "I like some of them, but I don't agree with everything you have to say." So I looked at her, I said, "You're a lawyer, you have to argue." So she chuckled. And then we just had a great conversation for an hour. And then that evening I was giving a talk on the science of letting go. So as we were kind of coming into the airport, then I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, I'm giving a talk tonight on the science of letting go. Have any tips for me?" And then she looked down and she said, "Yeah, that one, I'm still struggling with. I lost my husband 20 years ago and I haven't let go. And then she became a bit teary. And then we talked about that, why she couldn't let go and what was. And it was great. It helped me in formulating my ideas to give that talk that evening. So like the tagline we use when we on the social media is wisdom that breathes. And what we really try to do is make Krishna consciousness alive, see how it relates to people, see like what are people. So yeah, for me, if you don't keep in touch with the people, if you don't take the time to listen to people, why will they take the time to listen to you? It's just like that. You have to listen to the people. Mahaprabhu listened for so many days, and then he replied, So we have to listen to the hearts and the minds. It's really, really important.
Can I ask you something else? When you said you talked to her and you said, oh, you're a lawyer, you have to argue. So you have this intelligence and way of repartee in French, I don't know in English, to answer back and bring something who breaks the ice, yeah? But when you're not very at ease with that or have the knack of it, so how you go with it when you may be a bit intellectual or maybe a little minded and you still have this way you talked about. So what's a little tip for that without getting too heady or all of a sudden I'm not preaching to people. I don't do that because I don't know anything. So that's easy for me, but I've been preached at, and that's very repulsive. So how we go to this part of softening the heart, because it's about that, it's about love, about connecting.
Yeah, I think just smile and be kind is enough. You don't have to be witty. You don't necessarily have to be the sharpest mind. Nowadays, like if you just walk around and just be nice, smile to, ask people, how you doing? How you having a good day? It's enough, and people will open up. And so, yeah, you have to be yourself. Maybe this is also another important point in public speaking, is that I think we can take inspiration from many public speakers who we are inspired by, but we have to be ourselves. And maybe that's one lesson I learned over time, is don't try to be a public speaker like someone else. Be inspired by them, take the essence of but you have to be yourself, because people want to hear you, not someone else.
And we have one more question here, and I think that'll be the last one, since we've got to get ready for the next class. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for so many good points. I have a question regarding public speaking without a direct audience. Like in Denmark, we have had 2 radio stations for the last 40 years, sponsored by the Ministry of Culture. So we do a lot of, the one on radio has like 65 hours a week, and the other one has 45 hours a week. And everything that we do without an audience. So how to prepare, how to do it in a way that is most effective, because you cannot see any reaction. And also, a lot of things that is done today is done in that way, like YouTube videos or social media. A lot of it is done without an audience. How to do that?
Yeah, it's really important to get feedback. And if you can't get feedback because you can't see your audience, you have to try to see if you can get feedback some other way. Whether there's some way viewers can write in or you can hear from them. When we do things on social media, it's also sometimes good to, you have to be careful, but it's also sometimes good to look at all the comments. Of course, people sometimes, they just say things, you know, without thinking much about what they're saying, but it's also good to get some feedback. Because we want to know, how is the message landing? You see, like when Krishna speaks the Gita to Arjuna, it's not unidirectional. It's not just Krishna saying, boom, 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 boom. He's drawing feedback from Arjuna. Like, what do you think? Does this make sense? And then Arjuna says no, and then Krishna comes back. So the best wisdom is shared in an iterative way. It goes back and forth. Like even when someone asks a question, like they can ask a question, we can answer, and then you can always ask them, like, how does that feel? Did that tell me something if it didn't? And then something deeper may come out. So always try to get that feedback. And yeah, it's difficult nowadays. So much of what we do, there's not a live audience. Even you're on a Zoom call sometimes, everyone's got their camera off. It's like speaking into the Brahma Jyoti or something, you know, like you have no idea. Is anyone actually there? Like, is anyone there? What I do on a Zoom call nowadays is, I just find one person, one of the boxes of one person who's like interested. And then what I do on my screen is I pin them and I maximize them. And I give the whole class to this one person. Because it helps, you know, when you have some exchange, some interaction. So try to get feedback if it's possible.
Thank you so much, Keshava Maharaj. So grateful to have you come as our guest speaker. And thank you to Keshava Priya and Vrindavan Vinodini and Gaura Lila for also sharing today, and all of you who shared your mind maps and your takeaways from Tuesday's seminar. And be very conscious in your going forward. Please encourage others to speak and to sing. And as you break through your own barriers, you can coach others. Share what you've learned this week, and also what you learned from other speakers. And yeah, thank you all very, very much for your attention, intention, and your hearts surrendering to Krishna. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I hope we didn't keep you way beyond what you were expecting. Yeah. These are all your future preachers.